How are you, Joe? I'm
I'm
coming.
excellent today. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Nice to
Thank,
meet you.
nice to meet you. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, you bet. So where are you located?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. And this is the time to shine up there now, huh?
Yeah, get up there. I'm sorry, what?
This is the time up there where everything starts turning into wonderment.
Yep, it's starting. Usually probably second, third week is what they call peak season.
Okay. All right.
And pretty
Cool. Yeah, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, so things are
nice.
starting to kind of turn here, but it's great to meet you. And I want to begin our conversation with what we've lived through for the last 3.5 years, which has been a pandemic. How did you
Yeah.
make it through it, and how has it changed you now that we're kind of in this post-pandemic era?
You know, honestly, it hasn't really made that big of a difference. In under my circumstances, I'm pretty homebound,
Yeah,
so I just worked through it and used my experiences just to kind of use the internet as a way to reach other people and impact them that way.
yeah,
Um, Thankfully, we didn't struggle with COVID at all.
yeah.
My husband's job was essential, so that didn't impact us. So we have been certainly very blessed through the whole process.
So let's get to the essence of what you do for a living. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. One of the kids looks up at you and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I would say I help people who are going through struggles do it with more hope and strength.
Okay. So explain to me exactly what you do.
Okay. So my main mission is to help women rediscover God's joy and peace as they go through their struggles.
Okay.
And so a lot of times, our faith tends to waver when we get hit with these major life things. And my job is to redirect them back to the source of the strength that's going to get them through.
Excellent. So let's find out how we got here. Take me back to where you were born and raised. And what were these seeds that have been put into you to be compassionate, to be a digital content creator, and to do things that are genuinely helping people?
Um, well, I was raised in a pretty normal household. I have two sisters. And my goodness, we fought all the time. Thinking about it. It wasn't until my mid 20s when I met the man who I would marry, where he introduced me to the Lord. And but both both my sisters and I, my parents, we've always been very compassionate, always looking out for the underdog kind of person. And when I found my faith, it just gave me more tools to enable me to do that. I'm just always the kind of guy that'll come along and pick you up when you've been knocked down and dust you off and encourage you to get back in the race and finish the race.
Absolutely. So you obviously need to get a lot of inspiration. Who's been kind of a hero for you in your life?
Well, certainly my husband. I was in the hospital for 3 months, and in that time, he was right there encouraging me. And in that moment where the doctor said, "Say your goodbye, she's got no chance of survival," he said, that's what you think, because you don't know my God and what he's capable of." And so he, through his faith and belief and the power of prayer, that, he just kind of rallied everybody and said, "Okay, we need to pray." And he never left my side, and he just supported me through the whole thing. And so that's why I feel like I need to do that for other people.
Yeah. So what happened? How did you get in the hospital? How did all of that happen?
So basically, I contracted what I thought was the flu, but it turned out to be something called flesh eating bacteria, or necrotizing fasciitis. and it came from an ingrown hair in my leg. And so I went from one day just running around doing mom things to like 2 days later, I was in the hospital on life support. And it came out of nowhere. They didn't think I was going to survive. I had multiple surgeries. And ultimately, in order to save my life, they had to amputate both my hands and my feet. So I'm a quadruple amputee. And really, other than it limits me and the things that I can do, it hasn't slowed me down any.
Wow.
And I think that's what makes me an inspiration, is because I'm not letting it beat me up.
Sure. Sure. So what about your life gave you that determination, that mental moxie, so to speak, to say it's going to be okay?
When I first came home from the hospital, and I remember just sitting in my wheelchair and just looking at these hands going, where are they and what can I do with them? And I can't do anything anymore. When you get prosthetic legs, just slap them on and life goes on, right? People can't even tell I don't have real legs if I'm wearing jeans. But when you lose your hands, you lose a whole lot more. I used to love cooking for my family, and just simple household tasks like taking a shower or doing the laundry. I lost my ability to do those things. And so I was in a funk for a while, mostly because I felt like I was unable to do things. And, we've got 3 kids. I always told my kids, can't is a 4-letter word. I don't ever want to hear it from you. But all of a sudden, here I am saying I can't do these things. And I did a lot of Bible study, prayer, through the whole process. And then one day, my daughter comes to me and says, Mom, we're going tubing. She wanted to go tubing in the river about half hour away. I'm like, yeah, no, you're crazy. What kind of crazy person asked a woman with no hands and feet to get in the tube, right? She's like, no, it'll be good. And so I went, and it was kind of the turning point that proved to me that I was just as capable as I was saying I wasn't. Um, and it was kind of a 180 day for me, because I believe up until that point, I was preparing myself and God was preparing me so that I was able to just, okay, this is what we're going to do. And that was the day I decided to start my blog and sharing my story, because I figured, if I am stuck in this pity party because of something that happened to me, then I know that other people are too. And I know that it can be overcome. So they need to hear about it. And I swear it was like the very next day that I set up that blog to start sharing the story.
So you're obviously an inspiration to people. I'm curious, if you could meet anybody on the planet right now that's inspirational, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Well, living, there's a man named Nick Vujicic. Have you ever seen him? He
Uh-uh.
doesn't have hands. He's like amputated right here at the shoulder and no legs at all.
Maybe I have, maybe so.
He's
Yeah.
just a torso and a head.
Yeah.
I would love to have lunch with him or coffee or whatever. Because I think his book was one of the first ones I read
Yeah.
when I came home from the hospital. Because, when you go through things, you want to relate to other people that are in a similar circumstance. Okay, well, how did he feed himself? How did he do this? How did he get his strength? And so that's where I would go, because he is far more positive than I am.
There was a guy the other day that had no arms, that pitched threw the first pitch out at every game, and he did it with his leg, and he threw a bullet straight middle of the plate into that guy's glove. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember the first time that I really ever saw somebody, an amputee in motion, and I was amazed. And it was a man at a Wendy's in Midtown Kansas City, and he was eating a salad with his feet. And I was just like, it was an inspirational thing. It's one of those moments where you It's almost like a spiritual epiphany. You just see that there's this level of determination. And my son's on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum, and is
Mhm.
specifically what he has. And I think about your ingrown hair. He has one extra piece of chromosome on his 15th chromosome. There's extra pieces of DNA on it, and it's just long, and it's led to developmental delays and all kinds of other things. But I remember we went to an event one time that was sponsored by the Royals, and he saw somebody with no arms, and he was younger, and he's still honest at 18, and he just has this natural curiosity. But he went up to this man, and he didn't have any arms, and he said, "What happened?" He was like, "What do you mean, what happened?" And he was like, "Well, why don't you have any arms?" He was like, I don't know. I mean, that's the way I was born. This is natural to me." And basically painted that picture to him. This is the
Mhm.
way I am. I don't know anything any different. And it was a really good way of explaining that to him, and he got it. So it's
Yeah.
amazing.
I have a friend who owns a local daycare, and she regularly invites me to come in and talk to her kids, because when they go through like the disability books or whatever they're reading, they have questions. She's like, "Well, let's go straight to the source," and then she'll give me a call. Come and talk to them. They want to, and they ask the kookiest questions. The first time I went, they had those giant sheets of paper
Yeah.
that they write on. They had two of them full. There must have been 20 questions. How do I eat? How do I go to the bathroom? How do I put my feet on? And it's amazing. They're not afraid to ask.
Sure.
But when I'm out and about, it's like the adults will stare, but the children will ask questions.
Yeah.
And I would much rather have people ask me questions
Yeah.
than just stare. And it breaks my heart when the adults are pulling the kids away. Don't look, don't look. And I'm like, no, no. What do they want to know?
Yeah.
Because I don't want people, especially little ones, to be afraid
Yeah.
of when they see somebody who looks a little bit different than they are.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this, based on the life you've led so far, if you could have a dream tonight and run into a much younger version of yourself, say in your 20s, you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on the things that you've overcome, lived and learned, and wisdom. What would you tell your young version?
I say this to my kids all the time: don't let the turkeys get you down. And the other thing I tell them is be a duck, because the all the nasty stuff that people throw at you, the ducks, the water, it just rolls right off them, right?
Yeah.
And so, um, yeah, it just kind of stands out that we can't let the negativity and the pessimism have any impact on who we are, who we think we are. We need to get our source of strength from the Lord. And I learned this later in life. So, I wish I'd learned it earlier, which, you know, with God, all things are possible. And
Hmm.
so just an optimistic outlook, and just looking out for the other guy and getting our source of strength from the Lord is just a really great roadmap.
So, of all the things that you've done, overcome, and seen in this life, what are you the proudest of?
Being a mom. Being a mom. I raised three really great kids. And, when I was going through my difficulties, they were all going through their teenage years. I had a 13-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 17-year-old. My 17-year-old was graduating from high school. In fact, I had to break out of rehab to go see him graduate because they weren't going to let me go. And then my 13-year-old was like just super emotional and just not handling the whole situation. And those were my boys. And then my daughter in the middle was like just one tough cookie. She's the one that said, "Come on, we're going tubing."
Yeah.
But those kids, they never looked at me as there was anything wrong with me. I was never disabled in their eyes.
Yeah.
And so, even though I considered myself disabled many times, they're like, "Nope, nope, you're not. If you don't think you can do this, just." I remember one time my daughter was going to get a drink in the kitchen, and I'm like, "Would you mind getting me one?" She's like, "Nope, get it yourself." And I was like, "All right, first of all, don't talk to your mother like that. And second of all, what are you talking about?" And she's like, if I get that for you, that's an excuse for you not to do it for yourself. And I don't want that for you.
Wow.
And so all of my children have grown up with this kind of take no prisoners kind of attitude that we can do what we want to do, we can accomplish it. And that makes me pretty proud.
So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, uh, clients, everyone around you, but you ultimately run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm an encourager. You know, I'm the guy where everybody's moaning and belly aching about what's wrong with the world. I will just kind of like a bowling ball, knocking down the pins, coming in and saying, all right, well, yeah, but where's the blessing in all this?
Yeah.
What's good in your world? Why focus on what's wrong? What's good in your world?
So if anyone out there wants to reach out to you, learn more about your story, your digital content, anything that you do, where can they go? What can they do?
My website is called One Exceptional Life, ONE, and I'm on Facebook, facebook.com/One Exceptional Life. Those are the easiest ways to reach me.
It's an exceptional story. Wendy, thank you so much for opening up. Thank you for giving us your story. Best of luck with everything and keep on spreading the sunshine.
Thanks, Joe. I'm just thankful to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.